Happy New Year. Cheers to 2026. We survived 2025, the year of the snake. And that is really what it was, a year of shedding, if you guys know anything about what the year of the snake represented. And that goes hand in hand with my topic of my unemployment. As you guys know, the most recent video that I did, well, actually, maybe you don't know, but if you're new here, this is Soulvibes CC. I'm Celine Lizette, and where I pretty much talk about spiritual topics, my life, everything that, is going on, and pretty much just giving advice from what I've been through. So that is my channel. But yeah, my most recent video, for those who have returned, know that I have been unemployed since September, which is when I did my video. And I literally had only been unemployed for about a week. And yeah, it's been quite the journey since then. My goal for this video is to really just talk about the journey that I've gone through and how, I think it is because we are in a new year and it's going to be the year of the horse. I already feel the energy shifted and I feel very good with where I'm at, and like there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And so my goal is to, if anyone, I'm assuming if you're watching this, you might be unemployed, to kind of just give some reassurance that you are still on the right path. For anyone who's feeling lost or like a failure, because that's very much how I was feeling, give some of the tips that helped me get through this transitional time. And I'm still technically unemployed at the moment, but I at least know now where I'm going to be putting my energy towards, which is huge. Like having clarity and knowing what you want to actually do is such a good place to be at. So grateful for that. And then also to just give some tips on what I did to help me get to this point rather than, where I was originally. Even though I will say in my last video, I just watched it, like I was in a pretty light state and also like just kind of, I don't know, like I guess in a lighter state than what I went through after that. Like there was some definite dark moments. So I'll shed some light on that as well. But yeah, that's what it's about. And grab some wine if you want to, especially if you're unemployed and you like wine, grab a glass. So this being the second time that I quit while living on my own in LA, is very different. I call it phase 2 versus phase 1. In 2020, when I first quit, I ended up moving back home. And this time I decided to stay in my apartment. So definitely a different experience than the first time. And because of that, there's been an immense amount of growth, I would say. And I don't plan to move from here. I plan to honestly make shit happen. And I think this is lined up exactly how it's meant to, which, if you're living on your own, like it can be scary because you have rent, you have, bills to pay. And if you don't have an income or you got laid off or whatever, like it definitely is a time where you can be more stressed. And that's, what happened in the first couple of months. I was like, it's hard not to freak out and to not let yourself overthink and get an anxiety. And that's kind of what I had to work through the first couple of months. I do mention in my last video that I hired a life coach. And this life coach, well, one, that was expensive in itself. And I signed up for I think it was 3 months in total. And, if you can do something like that, like financially, I'm all for it because I truly believe that you investing in your growth and having someone help you with life and also, spiritually in any way that you do self-help and act that way, or act in those ways, I believe that the universe matches that energy and you really do start to see progress. Even if it takes time, if it takes finding different therapists or different life coaches, you will be rewarded, and it just takes some time sometimes. But anyway, so I recommend that. I mean, if you get led to that path, but also I can tell you, which I do plan to talk about in this video, what specifically from that life coaching experience helped me. I do think it was meant to be, but do I plan to go back to her when, let's say I have an income or I will have an income eventually, would I go back to her? I would have to ask, I would pray on it, and I would have to ask like my spirit guides and stuff if that's what's meant for me. But right now I don't feel like it's necessary. Like I feel like I learned what I needed to in that process. Um, and so like with that life coach, one of the main things that I benefited from learning from her is to connect more with God and to get back to like morning affirmations, journaling, like I used to do that actually in I believe like I started doing that after I went to hypnotherapy. My hypnotherapist recommended that, and that was in like 2019, 2020 specifically, when I was doing that a lot. That's actually how I manifested my job back at the same company, like doing affirmations constantly every morning. And that really helped to raise my vibe. I fell off of that this past year because my work environment was so stressful and it was just really time consuming. I stopped working out. I stopped going on walks. It's like I was really just trapped in my apartment, and that really lowered my vibe. So getting with the life coach, she had me reinstill that habit of connecting with God, praying in the morning, asking for clarity, and to be led to be led down the right path. And yeah, I still do that every morning, even if it's like like a 2-minute prayer, just like you stating a couple of sentences to God in the morning. Like starting off small is okay. Like that's literally what I would do. And I do feel like that really, really helped. Like that's definitely gotten me much farther than where I was without God. So that's one thing. So within the first couple of months, I would say that's where I was, like I mentioned, that's where the anxiety was. I was like, oh my God, because my life coach would talk about, okay, like maybe you should go down this path. I was a renewal manager. So like she's coming up with different routes that I could take, like a customer success manager, different like just roles that I might be a fit for. And she was saying the goal for me was to get a job, another corporate job. And then down the line, like if I want to start my own business or whatever, like, or a side hustle, that's the goal, right? And although that sounds good, like on paper, and I think that's, something that I'm still open to, at that time, I was so depleted spiritually that like, it was hard to hear that, because I'm like, I don't want to do anything. I was just at a state where I was tired, exhausted. Like, I do not want to learn anything. Like all I thought at the time was, I just want to rave, which I talk about in my last video. Like I rave a lot. And she would make me feel bad for that, because she was like, you're going out and partying and numbing yourself. And all those, like some people do that. I don't fully agree with that. It's like, I wasn't just going out and getting trashed and, being out of control. That's what I felt like I wanted to do. You have to follow what feels good. And that's what I learned, from Abraham Hicks. I think I talk about that in other videos, law of attraction. You have to follow the path of least resistance. However, if you're like going out, like let's say you just want to go party and get trashed because you're trying to numb yourself and think like that's the intention, that is not a path of least resistance. That is like, or you'll end up feeling like crap. Like it's not, you are going to intuitively know like this is not right for you, but you're choosing to do that because you're, unhappy or whatever. For me, it was not the case. Like I knew how to balance myself, where it's like, okay, I'm going to drink, but I'm not going to get trashed, or I'm not going to engage in things that make me out of control or feel like really low. Like I am in tune enough with myself, I guess, or like mature enough to know not to do that. But going out was actually a positive thing for me, because like I said, I was in my apartment all the time. And I just felt called to go to these things. For example, there was a Cascade private party in Santa Monica. That was something that opened a door for me. So, and like in the most positive way, I met a good connection from going to that. I was actually on crutches. I don't know if I mentioned this in my last video or not, but like the same week that I got laid off or whatever, I also hurt my meniscus from pole dancing, which is one of my favorite hobbies. And so there was a lot that just went on during the eclipse, honestly. And so I still, till this day, like I haven't been pole dancing because I'm still healing. But because of that, I went to this Cascade little party, and it was a very intimate setting, and I was on crutches. And because of that, like I made a friend with somebody who's super important, and that has led me places. And like, that's what goes back to being open and following what truly makes you feel good, and not feel good because you're like doing it in a negative way, if that makes sense. So I did that, and like so many doors have opened from that in the music industry, which is partially why I'm like, okay, maybe that is a part of my path too. I don't know. And that's something that I've learned is so crucial in this time, and I'm going to take with me moving forward, is like, be open to what the universe is going to present to you. Like, you may think it's this one thing, but what if it's not that? What if that's just, you know, a stepping stone, or like there's so many possibilities. So that is like the number one thing that I would say is stay open. And again, the connection with God, connection with the universe, like if that's guiding you, you're going to be okay no matter what, and you will get clarity. But stay open and don't close yourself off. So I did that. I followed my bliss, and I had been partying. Even though she would have considered that a bad thing, I know that it's led me to opportunities that are good for me. I also forced myself to get out and to go out alone. Like, I actually went to a bar by myself, and I met such a good friend. Like, literally, like I would have never thought, like, this man is an angel, and he like so sweet, and has helped me almost like restore my faith in humanity because he's just so sweet. And like, now we're friends. He introduced me to his other friends that live in LA too. And like, we had a Friendsgiving. That was my first Friendsgiving that I had ever went to. So like, all these magical things have happened because I chose not to close myself off, to not, necessarily listen to my life coach's advice. Like, you gotta really listen to your intuition and do, what it is. Like, put yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit, even though like, cause I got used to isolating in this time because I was, stressed out, anxious, not to mention like I was breaking out like crazy because of some hormonal issues, but that made it hard for me to want to go out and connect with people. And, I really call this the time of shedding. It's like I was shedding, like I wasn't as close with my old friends that I used to be, which also made me feel isolated. Like, I was at a time where things were changing, and sometimes everything around you just starts to shift. At least for me, it did, And so, so I met new friends in this process. I had new opportunities opening up for me. There's a lot of good things as well as like dark moments in this time, in this shedding period. And it was also a huge time for rest and recovery because, like I said, I was depleted from the job. I did not feel like I wanted to learn anything. And this is an important part just because I think we assume like, okay, because we're unemployed, like time is of the essence. You got to find something else. And like, if you weren't super depleted in your job, you might be able to bounce back quicker, right? Or like find the other thing as soon as like you're ready to, as soon as your soul is ready to, like you can do that. For me, it's like, I really needed to take this time to understand what was going on with me spiritually, which is just that I needed new connections to come in my life. I needed to see, okay, like, in the music realm, let's just say like raving, I no longer like to do GA experiences. I mentioned in my last video, like I've raved for about 5 years now, and I'm very sensitive to energy. I don't like being in big crowds. Whereas when I first started, I loved it. I was such a different person. And that's what growth is. You change who you are, your interests change, your taste changes, and like you just evolve. And that's what I've noticed. It's like, what I used to love so much has truly evolved. And just from these past 3 months, I've been able to take a step back and see all of this from a bigger like picture. But if you are feeling, like you don't want to learn anything, just give yourself grace for that. because I really like, that's something that was challenging for me because, you know, we're in such a hustle culture, and also financially, like having my own rent, like I mentioned, or having to pay my own rent, and like, you know, trying, like learning not to freak out because I do have the savings, I do have the abundance. I just have to trust that, you know, like that's what savings are for. So that's why I'm like, okay, let me just ride this out, because I do know that if I go back home, and this is something that my life coach kind of, you know, shed some light on, I will regress, because my parents had such a, I don't want to say like a hold on who, like it just set me back, you know, like some parents aren't like that with everybody, but for me, it's like, it brings me back to this state where it's like, okay, I can't become my own person if I'm living with my parents, because I do have overbearing parents. And that's another thing that I learned too, is like they're trying to offer their advice, like, oh, maybe you should go learn HR, maybe you should go do this. And yes, some of their tips have been helpful, but also it's like learning to tune out what they say, because not everybody else is right. My parents are not always right. And really, again, that goes back to tuning into your connection with your higher power, with the universe, so you can have that clarity and know what is the right step for you. Like, I feel like that's been the biggest thing up until this point. Once you get enough energy or enough resting time, that's where, and you're building your connection with the universe and God and asking for clarity, that's when the next stage happens, which is really like the last month for me. So from December until now, I call it the rebuilding phase. And I guess like it's all interwoven. There was no, like some building happened in like September and November, but also some, you know, some dark days also happened. So it's like, you know, the process isn't linear. I'll say that. So the rebuilding and now seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, like that is where I'm at, and it feels amazing, honestly. So for example, when the winter solstice happened, which I believe was like December 20th, I think, something like that, with one of the new connections that I've made, her name's Lauren. She's awesome. And just like in this process, there are people who came into my life who were supportive that I feel like I'm going to get distant from, which is crazy. It's only been a few months, because I can feel the energy of like, I don't want to say like jealousy or like just unsupportiveness in a way that is going to help me moving forward. So at least I have to have stronger boundaries with some of these people. But there are new connections that I can tell are going to be in this next chapter that are supportive energies and high vibrational energies that I do want around me. So Lauren is one of them, and I'm super grateful that me and her have connected in the last month. And so we went to a sound bath yoga meditation for the winter solstice. And in that yoga meditation, I heard loudly and intuitively like what I need to work on. And it's not like a long, like it's not, so I think sometimes we expect to be like, okay, this is the plan, this is what you need to do. It's literally just the next step of what I needed to focus on, which is I'm going to start working out. Like I heard it loudly and clearly, consistently work out 3 times a week. So I've been on my game. I've been working out, I think for the past 3 weeks, except this past week, I only worked out twice, but I still worked out twice, despite that I went to a rave in Colorado. And like old me prior to getting laid off, I would have never gone to the gym like after a rave. You know, I went to the rave Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Sunday I worked out, which like that was the second time I worked out that week. So I already feel myself being dedicated, and I'm like, okay, like it changed. Like, I don't know. It's just crazy that I heard that solidly, and like I'm sticking to it. In addition to working out, the other habit that I've integrated now is doing Pilates once a week, on Fridays. And yeah, it's just good for my mind, good for my body, good for my soul. And then really I got clarity. I think it was this past week, or was it 2 weeks ago, that like I've known since my spiritual retreat, like something that I've been interested in and wanting to do, which hence I mentioned my life coach was like, you know, your side hustle. And she thought the right path is get an income, which makes sense, get a steady income, and then do the side hustle, right? and I'm trying, I'm applying for jobs and stuff, but I'm like, I know if it's the right one, it'll come into my, my orb. But so far it hasn't. And I decided to finally just pursue what it is that I'm interested in. And like I said, the energy has switched. I feel like, wow, if I'm going to learn something, this is what I'm choosing to learn because, I just feel like it resonates with my inner child. And now I have true clarity on what it is that I want to contribute to like my community, my society. And I want to do that with something that truly makes my heart happy, my inner child happy. I think that's like what the ingredient is. I mean, I know it'll be different for everybody, but that's why I'm choosing the path that I'm going to go down. And so despite it being maybe crazy, or my life coach might be like, no, 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 don't do it without, a steady stream of income from a corporate job. Like, I'm not going to listen to anybody except for like my higher, my higher self, my higher power. And I'm just going to go again down the path of least resistance. I watch a lot of podcasts. I watch a lot of like YouTube videos from different spiritual teachers like Gabby Bernstein. I'm doing I think her manifesting challenge. I forgot what it's called, the 21 manifesting challenge, 21 day manifesting challenge. I watch Mel Robbins. Like I feel my mind. I try to do it daily with videos that are inspiring, that like feed my mind and my soul. And that's how I've gotten to this point of like, okay, I'm choosing to take action. And this is what I want to do. And I know my why. I think that's like the most important thing. That video was all over the place, but I mean, this is pretty much what it's been for the past couple of months. I know I don't have like specific points of like, okay, do this, and do this. But I guess if I can recap, take the time to rest and recharge yourself for however long that is. Obviously, we do have responsibilities, like if you're living on your own, rent, things like that. Just do what you can to keep your vibe high, like, and trusting in the universe, because you will be able to accomplish what you need to. And everything always happens at the right time. Like those are affirmations that need to be said every single day. Universe, I trust that you are leading me to my heart's truest desires. And I'm always at the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. Everything is falling into place. Everything happens as it's supposed to. The other thing, do what you feel called to do. Another thing that I didn't mention that I did in like the past 3 months, I wanted to get back into the energy of giving. So something that I felt called, or a way that I felt called to do that, was to go volunteer at this cat shelter. And honestly, that really helped heal me on some dark days. I've only done it like 3 times, but yeah, for example, like go do something where you can give, that you feel called to do. And switching gears, like if you're isolating, or like, try to really first raise your own vibe, do that with YouTube videos or podcasts. There's so many things out there that you can YouTube that really helped me. So I encourage you to do the same. And then also put yourself out of your comfort zone and, try to just get yourself into, like a new position, like go try something, go to a restaurant, go to a movie, like whatever will put you in a new energy. I encourage you to do that. Lastly, but most importantly, like connecting with God, with the universe, really building that relationship, because they know more than, or God knows more than anyone, like what your path is, but you just have to like fully trust in him and pray to get you through any dark days, and to make the path easier, make it more enjoyable, and refocus on peace and fun and living your life purpose. So that's what I have. Let me know if you have any questions, but cheers to the new year, the year of the fire horse, and following our bliss. Thanks.